What is up, beautiful people of the world? Today we're doing a video that tries to fill in the cracks of all the other hyperlapse tutorials on the internet. I have no film background, I have no photography background, so every time I want to do something new with my camera, I just Google it. I just go on YouTube and try to find tutorials. So I went through and watched a bunch of tutorials.
Make sure that you're getting the most steady hyperlapse possible. Just stay here and teach you guys something fun.
You should use hyperlapse.
And I went out and tried to shoot my first hyperlapse. These are the 5 lessons I learned from shooting my first hyperlapse. I would say the best way to use these tips is to go watch a bunch of hyperlapse tutorials and then watch this, because these are the things you're gonna do. They're gonna take you extra time, they're gonna cause you to mess up, get you frustrated as a beginner. And I think these 5 tips, I literally just learned them doing the activity myself. So I think they're super helpful for you. And I hope that you enjoy them. If you do, please give them a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get into the tips. A lot of people tell you to use chalk to mark off your distance so that you can have the exact same distance in between each shot. So of course, what did I do? I went and bought some chalk. And then I started marking off where I was gonna move my tripod. However, if I was gonna move the camera straight towards the building and then go by it, all of my marks were actually going to be in my camera shot. So I spent like a good 15-20 minutes just chalking away on the street, and then I realized that when I move my camera towards this building, it's going to show up with all these things. I'm gonna have to edit them out. I'm gonna have to edit out all these chalk marks. I apologize for the shadows, but you could see what would have happened here. I would have continued to take photos along this line, and then you would have seen them in the shot all the way down there. So my tip to you is only use the chalk if you're moving side to side, because if you move forward or backward, you're gonna see these marks in your shot. Tip number 2, if you've never shot something like this before, you don't really know where to shoot or what to shoot. A lot of people say to use a building as your main point, and I would completely agree with that. However, I think that what they fail to mention is you also want other movement in your hyperlapse. So a lot like a time lapse where you want to catch like a highway or people moving, you want the same thing in your hyperlapse, so that way it doesn't just look like a video of you walking down a street. You want clouds moving over time. You want people moving by. I made the mistake of going to a place where I knew no one was going to be because I wanted the space to take my first shot at a hyperlapse. But I think in the end, it actually turned out to be worse because I didn't have people moving at a consistent rate. Bonus tip to tip 2, a lot of tutorials had this kind of setting your shutter speed so that you get this blur effect, and I would say that that is probably the best way to do it. It looks super cool, and I think next time I go, I'm gonna give that a shot. Tip number 3, a lot of these tutorial videos tell you that you want to get your frame rate and then multiply it by how long you want your video to be. So for example, if you were doing 24 frames per second and you wanted 10 seconds of a hyperlapse, you'd want 240 images. That all sounds good, and I know in my head, oh, 240 images. But you kind of do this whole process. You set up your shot, you get your kind of line of path, you walk your line of path, you see what's gonna happen, and then you start clicking away and you forget to count your shots. I would definitely pay attention to the number of shots in the bottom corner of your DSLR, or keep a tally in your head, because I just started clicking away and then I realized that I had no idea how many pictures I had taken. So tip number 3 is make sure you're counting your photos. I know it seems silly for me to even say it as a tip, but just little things that you aren't thinking about and can make a huge difference in your end results. The 4th tip is that you should really pay attention to the sun. This isn't something that I really thought of, because when you're taking one shot, you can set your exposure, your aperture, your ISO, and you take that shot, and those conditions are completely good for that one picture. But when you're doing the hyperlapse, because you're moving and taking multiple pictures, and the sun is actually moving in the sky as you're moving and taking time to take all these shots, you might have different exposure on one side of a building than you do on the other. And that's fine, you can switch it up in your camera to get the right exposure. But in order to get that kind of smooth looking shot where it looks all succinct, I would say definitely try to pick an angle or a movement that is going to try to keep your exposure pretty much the same. So I made the mistake of coming at my building east to west. So the sun was actually like lighting up my area at first, but then as I turned around the building, I was shooting directly into the sun. So it was much more difficult to edit those photos together and make them look really succinct and part of the same sort of shot. It definitely made the hyperlapse look less professional. Tip number 5, the last tip, is that if you're taking these photos on your hyperlapse, you're doing 1, 2, 3 in succession, and you happen to take a photo that is crooked or you don't like the exposure, and you delete the photo and then retake it, when you go to put that into post, you actually have to renumber all these images so that you can pull them into After Effects or pull them into Premiere and create a succinct sequence. So my suggestion is, don't mess up your photos. Do them right the first time. Make sure you're taking the shot exactly how you want to take the shot, because if you have to renumber them like this, then it can be a real pain. I hope that this video kind of added a little bit to a lot of the other tips videos you see online. Like I said, I don't have a film background, I don't have a photography background. So for me to go through the technical aspects of how to shoot a hyperlapse would have been a complete useless video for you. But what I did think was helpful was the fact that I'm a beginner and I tried to learn off YouTube, and these are tips that I think were kind of left out, and I spent a good 2 hours trying to shoot my original hyperlapse and only to find out all of these things were issues. So hopefully to speed up your learning process and your first hyperlapse experience, I want you to take these 4 tips and add them to someone else's awesome hyperlapse tutorial, which there are tons of on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If it was helpful, hit the thumbs up. If you enjoy hanging out with me, please smash that subscribe button. I'll see you guys on Wednesday where we'll be doing travel tips, and then Saturday again with a new random project like this one. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Love y'all. Bye-bye.
They're vessels. They're rooms. They're so much less important than the things inside of us.